Smoke. OVS. Old Virginia Smoke.
Welcome to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Luke Darnell. This week on Pitmaster, we switch it up a little. This is the first interview in our team series. Kim, the Lil General, and Leigh Anne interview teammates from some of the best pitmasters in the world. This week, they go deep inside Smokin Hoggz with Shaune Gillespie. This is a fantastic interview that I think will really make you laugh and I think you'll enjoy. So please join me in welcoming Kim, Leigh Anne, and Shaune.
Hi there, everyone. I know you're probably thinking, did Pitmaster Luke suck on a helium balloon before hitting the record button? Well, afraid not. Sorry. This is Luke's better half, Kim, also known as Little G, Lil General. And I'm here with Leigh Anne, Terry, and we're hosting a very special edition of Pitmaster Podcast. Hey, Leigh Anne, how's it going?
Going great, Kim. I'm really excited about doing this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. This is really going to be fun, something new. So Luke has had some really good conversations with pitmasters from across the country, but competition barbecue isn't just about pitmasters, as we know.
Well, don't let him hear you say that.
Right, I know, right? He's going to be upset with that because that's his little ditty. But we wanted to talk with some of the teammates of really successful barbecue competition pitmasters. And we really wanted to kind of pull back that curtain on how they contribute to what their team is doing and the effort that they're making. And no matter what you see on the television, reality, cooking shows, social media, competition barbecue is rarely a solo endeavor. There's a lot of work that happens behind the closed trailer doors.
So today on our very first edition of the Pitmaster podcast, we have Shaune Gillespie from Smokin Hoggz, Massachusetts. Shaune and her husband, Bill Gillespie, are 2011 Jack Daniel's World Champions and 2014 American Royal Invitational Champions. They've won a lot of competitions. I spent some time on their webpage, and there's just a lot of numbers there. They've got their own line of rubs and sauces for sale, and Bill is just getting ready to release what I think is his fourth cookbook this May, which is entitled Hot and Fast Barbecue on Your Weber Smoky Mountain. Shaune, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, ladies. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're very excited to have you too. We were having a little chit chat before we started here, and we were just saying, "Yay, Shaune is popping our podcast cherry right now." So
no one ever asked to talk to me, so this is great.
I know. Well, you know what? When we were thinking about who we wanted to have on here, we were like, you know what? Shaune is really a natural choice for us to get started here with this teammate edition of Pitmaster podcast. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. So how did you personally get involved with competition barbecue? How did that go?
Basically through Bill. He was on another team at the time when he first started, when we were just dating at the time. And he was going, I think it was maybe like 5 or 6 contests over the summer. And he was away on the weekends and I was home, and I knew he was getting addicted to it at the time. And I figured he was going to start doing more. And I figured if I did not figure out what this was all about and going with him, I wasn't going to see him at all. So he kind of took me to a first contest, which was in Maine, and I had a blast. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't cook. I didn't when they were cooking and competing, I was, drinking and sitting around or whatever like that and just meeting people. And it kind of just got me hooked. I had a really, really good time. So I just started going with him on weekends, and then it eventually just kept steamrolling into bigger and better things.
When did Bill and you form your own team? When did it happen? And which happened first, by the way? You getting married?
We formed the team first, and then we got married.
So when did that happen approximately?
Bill's so much better at dates than I am, but I believe it was in 2006 is when he formed Smokin Hoggz. And then we got married in 2012. I think that's right. Yeah, I'm really terrible at dates, but it's definitely got married in 2012. I know that one.
So you guys were doing this as part of your dating life for 6 or 7 years before that. So you said that first competition you were just drinking, meeting people, having a good time. Can you talk a little bit about when responsibilities started to show up on your to-do list, so to speak, as these weekends evolved?
I think at the time when it started to evolve, I did more of getting him organized. At the time, we didn't have a trailer. He packed everything into a truck. So I made sure he had everything. I made sure, that, we had to do the shopping, what he needed to do, where he needed to be. It eventually kind of grew because you get kind of bored, and I wanted to do a little more. So I asked him, could I start doing stuff? And that's when we got into grilling for nebs. He did not want to do nebs. He just wanted to concentrate on the barbecue side of it, competition. So I kind of slowly got into that a little bit. So I would do those 4 categories with him, but I was like the main person on it. And then over time, it just we stopped doing nebs and I slowly took over doing the barbecue with him. So started there.
Can you give a little bit more about what the grilling for nebs is? I know a lot about KCBS, but
Yep.
I'm not a nebs member and I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, so NEBS is I think now it's the Northeast Barbecue Society, but they do a 4 category. I wouldn't say it's grilling, but most people consider it that. And it's usually done up here. We compete Saturday into Sunday. So grilling was always on the Saturday during the day. So they would do 4 categories. It was whatever they chose. So like they would maybe have like a chicken wing category, a shrimp category, sausage category, and dessert or something like that. But each contest was different on their categories. And then you just you did, most of it was done grilling. You could smoke it, whatever you wanted to do. But most of the time they just call it grilling. So that's basically what it was.
And then also, nebs is a little bit different. And with the Northeast contest, that a lot of your contests are not Friday, Saturday. They're usually Saturday, Sunday.
Yes.
When you'd said the competition for nebs usually happens on a Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. So you had kind of talked about how your responsibilities had increased. So do you have a title that you give yourself or that Bill gives you?
No, I have no title. I'm just Shaune.
Well, and when you talk about Shaune, we'll have to get into the shenanigans here a little bit later on in our broadcast here. So you talked a little bit about how you first got started as a team and you really liked, you sat around and you enjoyed people's company and you sat around and drank, but then you had more responsibilities. So now that you have been a team and an established and a successful team for so long, what now keeps you coming back week after week?
The number one thing is the friends that are there. We have a set group of maybe like 6 other couples that compete basically the same amount of contests that we do. And that's my only chance to see them. So I enjoy like seeing them and just other people that, you don't normally see all the time. So it's the friendships and like that relationship that keeps me coming back. But once you start winning and you get that thrill of it, it just keeps bringing you back and you just want more and more of it. And I think that's what it is. Sometimes I say to Bill that he created a monster because I'm always like, he'd be like, oh, we're just going to do this or whatever. Or, we have this weekend free. And I'm like, well, what can we pick up? I'm like, there's got to be something because I don't want to stay home. I'd rather go out and barbecue. So he created a monster basically. Sometimes I think I'm worse than him.
So do you think you're like the driving force on those free weekends because you love it so much? Does Bill make those types of suggestions like, oh, we've got a free weekend, let's go pick up a comp? Or is he like, I'd rather sit by the pool?
I have to kind of be really, how do I say this? Cognizant of what we're doing, because there'll be a lot of times that we do like 30 contests a year and I know he needs a break in between there. But for me, I don't do as much as he does. He takes care of all the driving. He he has to get all the meat and stuff like that. Like he does like the big portion of it. So I have to be very careful on what I know. Every once in a while, I need to make sure he has that break in between so he doesn't get burnt out. But it's usually me because I hate being around the house. Like I would rather go out in the summer and go do something rather than sit at home. But I know sometimes he would rather just take a weekend and just be at home and sit by the pool. But he initiates, like right now, he already knows what he wants to do for the rest of the season. So in January, he starts thinking of what he wants and he has his schedule all set. And then I'll just pop in, oh, I saw this one up here. Why can't we do this one? And then he usually has a good reason of why we can't do it. Either it's too far of a drive or, we have something else going on. But when we do have an off weekend, I try not to stay at home. And that's just because I think I work from home. So for me, I just like to get out of the house and go do stuff. Whereas sometimes he works out of the office and stuff. He'd rather, stay at home.
And have you always worked from home, or is this just a function of the pandemic?
I always work from home. So it's been almost 8 years now that I work from home. It's a great thing for travel wise because I can basically work anywhere and leave anytime he needs to leave. So I work in the car a lot. I'll work on site if I have to.
Right, which is helpful because living in the Northeast, there's not as many KCBS contests like there used to be. So if for you all to compete and maybe do those 30 contests a year, you definitely need to have a lot of travel and travel time.
Yeah. I mean, a typical contest for us lately has been at least a 5 to 6 hour drive somewhere. I mean, we haven't had a contest. I mean, there's some local ones, but it's still an hour away, like to the closest one that we have, where other people who compete like in the Midwest or something, they can have like 3 contests in one weekend that are 20 minutes to an hour away from them. But for me, sometimes it's a 10-hour drive for me just to get to one contest. That working from home and working on the road helps me a lot. So
you were talking about how you have to have that delicate balance of making sure that you're doing contests, you have time at home because you don't want Bill to get burned out. So how do you handle Bill when you can tell he's starting to get a little overwhelmed, when it starts to get too much, when he gets upset or bogged down? How do you kind of handle that with him?
That's like it's funny that you say that because I sometimes say that Bill handles me more than I handle him. Bill has a very laid back attitude. Like he doesn't really get too stressed out about anything. Whereas I'm the worry wart. I always worry about if we're on time with something or where we need to be or stuff like that. So he's usually always calming me down. But I do have to watch him. At the end of the year is the toughest part, I think, when we start hitting like September and October. I think it's just because those are the bigger contests and plus we're traveling farther. And I sometimes can see that he gets tired, he struggles, he's a little more snappier and he like struggles a little bit. So I just kind of have to just make sure that, if I'll pick up extra things to do, like if he can't run out and get something for like meat or whatever, I'll try to go take care of that for him just so it's not as much run around for him. Because on top of that, like I said, he does all the driving. So it's not, he's driving the 10 hours, he's driving the 8 hours. So that adds to it too. So
you say that Bill handles you more than you handle Bill, but is there a particular example? Can you tell us a story maybe of what I can see that Billy is a really laid back guy. I've not seen him lose his shit anytime, but is there a time that he has, almost lost his mind or that you really had to help him out, or there was an accident?
I would say there was 2 incidents, and one was, I think, when we were at the Jack, and then there was another one where we were at another contest, and it wasn't, he was doing the box we were at the Jack and he was doing a box for the chicken. And at the Jack, you're supposed to do 7 pieces. So he does, sorry. He does.
That hurt, Shaune. That really hurt. I'm not going to pretend otherwise.
I don't know. I hope
you knew it had to be 7 pieces. So it's like, I was kind of right. I didn't mean to rub it in theory. So basically the way Bill does his chicken is he does basically 7 chicken wings and 7 thighs all in the box. And it was 2011. And I remember him trying to put that chicken box together and it was a mess. And it was like there was sauce everywhere and he couldn't get it in there and the box couldn't close and he just gave up. Like he literally walked out of the trailer. And at the time, it was me and Al, who used to be our other teammate. We kind of just looked at each other and was like, well, how do we fix this? So him and I just like cleaned it up or whatever. And we ended up turning it in and stuff like that. But that's about the only thing that stresses him out was that. And then we did another contest at Merrimack, which we did grilling at the time. And we did a pork chop entry. And he could not get the pork chops in the box. And that was another time he just literally gave up and like walked away from the box. And we were in half the time I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, what do I do? And at the time I wasn't doing a lot of stuff. So it was like kind of throwing me for a loop because I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't do boxes. So that's the only stuff that ever really he gets stressed out about. Other than that, he's a very calm person and he reacts very well to like bad situations or when things go wrong. Whereas me, we're at a contest and I could tell he's behind schedule or he starts playing with things in the smoker. And I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that. You're supposed to be doing this at this time, or you're not putting this on it. This is what the timeline says. And he's like, you just need to calm down. He's like, you need to step away and just calm down. And I just worry about everything. So that's how he handles me, is that usually just how to not make me worry so much because I stress out about everything.
How did he like react once you guys had fixed the box? Like, what does he do? Does he go like take a lap around the trailer, or get a drink, or go talk to somebody? Like how does he bounce back after in those very few times that he does walk away, like you say?
Yeah, he'll usually just sit, he'll go outside the trailer and just kind of take a seat down. He might have a beer or water or whatever, but then he's right back at it again. So it doesn't really throw him off too much. He recoups really, really quickly. So that's a good thing. Whereas me, I'd be stressing about it all, the whole contest, all 4 categories. I'd be like, oh my God, that chicken pox was terrible.
And how about you? Like if something, so if you start to get a little too stressed, then what do you usually need to do in order to get yourself to that place where okay, we have to all be coming together as a team?
Mm-hmm. I like same thing as I usually just have to step away from it for a little while. It's easier for me to step away because, I don't necessarily have to be there. He could finish a turn in without me. So I can kind of like sometimes he'll usually kick me out of the trailer and just be like, go sit outside for a couple minutes or whatever. But yeah, just stepping away from the situation at the time and just calming down, that usually kind of helps. There's been a couple times that I've been so nervous that like I've hidden in the bathroom in the trailer just to be by myself for a little while. So yeah, hiding is like kind of good sometimes.
Sometimes we all need to just take that little personal time out,
Yeah.
reflect on things, come back later.
Mm-hmm.
Totally get it.
You talked about your responsibilities at the beginning of the relationship and at the beginning of the team, how you weren't necessarily doing all that much. It was more of a social activity. Can you go us through what your responsibilities to the team are today? Yeah. And like, do you have a weekly routine? I know that, at OVS, we practically had a weekly schedule of things that had to get done at a certain time. Is that the way you guys operate?
Yeah, just about. Like you would know, like when you do so many contests week after week, it's kind of a lot of it's like the trailer and the stuff in the trailer is kind of there all the time. I might have to go through it. So like we come back from a contest and usually Monday we kind of don't really do anything. It's just kind of I'll take stuff out of the trailer that's dirty or whatever like that. And then Tuesday he starts to source his meat again, where he'll try to go get chicken or he get pork or whatever. And I try to go through the trailer and just figure out what needs to be repacked in there. So I'll take care of that most of the week. And then I'll do like, laundry and I'll get the trailer repacked, get the, bedding all done, all that kind of stuff. And then he usually trims meat at home. So we kind of he'll do that and I'll get parsley and stuff like that. And then depending on when we leave, Wednesday or Thursday, it's just basically getting all the meat in there, the beer in there, all that kind of stuff, and just make sure that we're ready to go if we leave on Thursday or we leave on Friday. So that's usually what our week is like. He usually handles the part of getting the meat and trimming if he has to do that. And I usually handle, getting all the rubs together and restocking and stuff like that.
So what do you do for the team that Bill might not even realize that you do?
I don't think so. I mean, him and I are a really good team that it's kind of, we just flow really well together. So, I mean, I handle, when we get to the contests, I kind of basically organize everything for him. Like he'll just get the trailer unhooked. He'll like do all the stuff that's outside while I basically get everything ready on the inside. So, I mean, he kind of knows what I go through and what I do. I think a lot of the times when he's out meeting people, like when we first get there and saying hello to everyone, there's a lot of times I'm in the trailer just getting everything organized and ready for him. I don't think he realized, maybe he doesn't see how much I do on that part of it just to get him set up. But
so the trailer Gary doesn't come in and just do all of that?
Oh God, no. And even the cleaning of it afterward. We have this rule that he does the outside with the smokers and I'll take care of the inside. But sometimes I don't think they realize how much messiness is on the inside of it that they make. So, and I do that. I constantly do that as we go too. I clean as he goes. He might go sit outside, like in between pork and brisket. And I'm usually cleaning up his pork mess so that he's ready for brisket, so.
How often do you have to clean the ceiling between meats?
He doesn't hit the ceiling as much as it is the back wall of the trailer and underneath the cabinets. But I don't ever really look up sometimes, but I do notice it sometimes. I'll be like sitting down in the chair and I'll be like, oh, look at that. But yeah.
What happens when you're not there? How often are you not there? I'm just curious. I feel like I always see the two of you together, but are there times when it's just Bill or just Bill and Alan?
Nope, Actually, it's only been one contest I haven't been with him.
Wow.
He did a contest in Canada, and I couldn't go because of work. I was too busy with work, and I wasn't sure if I would get my Wi-Fi up there and everything. So
I thought it was legal reasons.
oh God, no. So he actually went with Chad Humphrey, and they did a contest together up there. And I just basically did the same thing. I made sure that, everything was packed in the trailer. I did have to do their boxes because there was no way they were doing their boxes. But other than that, that was the only contest. I think he's done it twice. It's become like their little boys trip. They go up to Montreal every year and they do a contest. But other than that, he's never done a contest on his own. It's always been the both of us.
Wow, that's pretty cool that
Yeah.
you've always been able to go.
So I feel left out.
Right, you feel like you've really missed so many things that
Yes.
happened, and you don't want to be out of those stories.
Yeah.
So you were talking about Al, that a lot of times he helps out. So how is it different when you have Al in the trailer with you, and how do you prepare for the three of you to all cook together and be at a competition together?
We've been together for so long, that's how we kind of started. Whereas Al kind of did what I did for Bill. Like when they do turn-ins, he did the boxes for them. He helped him like do the meat and everything like that. And then Al kind of stepped away a little bit because his dog was sick, and then he had other things going on. He was getting into catering, whatever. And then I slowly filled that role. So that's how I kind of came about doing more things. But when Al does come, I mean, he does run the boxes, he great for moral support. Bill could be down in the dumper about something, or like, he's tired or whatever, but Al's always, he's always there for like support, and he's like really great at that. And anything you need, he'll do. It's, if you need to run and go buy something that you missed, or, you don't have enough charcoal and you need to go find somebody who has it, he'll run around and go find it for you. He's really good at that. It does add our trailer has gotten a little smaller. So when you add another person into it, it does make it kind of tough that we're all kind of bumping around with each other, but we're slowly getting the flow of it in the new trailer that we have. So it works out well, but it does add a little, because we're so used to a flow of just two of us. When you add anybody into the mix, it kind of just makes it a little, at first, you're kind of bumping into each other and everything like that. But by the end of it, you got your flow down.
So you talked a little bit about how you were taking sort of the point on the Neb's grilling and stuff. Do you consider yourself a cook or a chef?
I don't.
You do not?
I do not. Funny part is that if you ask, I haven't cooked a meal, I don't think, in 15 years. And if Bill cooks everything at home or whatever like that, and I'm just fine with that. I'm like, whatever. And I don't think he wants me to cook, because every time I cook, I like screw it up. I can't say I did it all by myself. Like I would decide what we were going to do, and I came up with the recipes and like that, but he kind of helps me with them, because he probably would think I'd burn everything down. But Bill's kind of hard too, in a sense, because he's a control freak, in a sense. So he kind of like, he'll stand behind me and be like, oh no, let me show you how to do that. And then I eventually just, he just takes it over, and I'm like, fine, go ahead and finish it. Yeah, I don't cook at all. I do bake though. I do bake, but I don't really cook.
I was going to say, I have seen your turn-ins for some of the most amazing desserts, and they're beautiful. So talk to us about your baking.
Yeah, that's like one thing I truly enjoy doing. I have a lot of fun with that, because I think you have to be very, very creative when you do it. You just can't turn in like a simple chocolate chip cookie anymore. It has to be kind of over the top. And I do like when you do like open containers where you can do a platter and you can come up with a drink that goes with it and all that kind of stuff. So I have a lot of fun with that. And I enjoy taking that to the next level and stuff. I kind of got into it just because Bill bought me my first smoker. It was a Humphrey smoker. It was pink, and it was a little one. It was just little. And I used to do all my baking in it. I did cupcakes in it. I did cheesecakes in it. And it was just something I had fun with, because I really don't like barbecue that much.
Oh my gosh. We're going to have to edit this out. Lucas, this is where we're going to have to do some editing here, just as a heads up.
I'm not like Bill, who would go out every day and have barbecue if he could. I think because I have it so much that I'm just kind of like, it's not something that I would go out for right away. So the baking part of it was kind of, I didn't want to cook meat in my smoker. I wanted to bake in my smoker. And that's kind of where it took off from there. I would just try like so many different things. Some things I completely failed at, and other things, I like excelled at. So I have a lot of fun with that.
Well, I know you've definitely had many successes, and I know you've gotten won 80 pins with all of your awesome desserts.
Yeah. As I say to Bill all the time, that I am the only one in this household that has 2 perfect perfects. It might be dessert, but I still have them.
Sometimes it's fun to be able to hold that over them. Just, it helps, motivate them just a little bit.
Exactly. I do say to him sometimes, like when we went to the Jack a couple times, I was the only one who got a call, and it was for my dessert or if it was for the chef's choice. And I'm always like, well, if I have to carry you this year, I'll do that. No worries.
Wow.
So I do like to rub it in a little bit.
So you're talking about teams. So let's talk about, like, what is one of the biggest things a team has ever done for you? Like, what's something that they've done to help you out, or what's something that you've done to help another team out?
There's been a lot of teams that have helped us to get to the Royal and then also to a couple contests in Florida. A lot of those contests that are farther away, we fly into just because we don't have, or Bill doesn't have the vacation time to drive out there. So a lot of times we can't take our equipment. So we've had Humphrey Smokers has flown in smokers for us that they sold on site. We've had Good Smoke took a bin for us that year of all the stuff that we needed. And St. Swine has before taken a bin and equipment for us too. So there's a lot of teams that have helped us get to those contests that, we can't bring a drive to, but rather fly to and borrow equipment. Those people have helped us out a lot because we wouldn't have been able, like the year we won the Royal, we wouldn't have been able to even go if it wasn't for those teams who carried everything for us. So there's those kind of things. I think, one thing for us is that I think where we help teams out is that we're kind of a very open team. If you have a question or, you're stuck on something or you're having trouble, we're very open. Like we're not one of those teams that sit in our trailer and don't ever come out and socialize or anything like that. That's one of the things I love about Bill is he'll tell you anything. If you're having trouble and you can't figure out, he won't tell you exactly what he does, but he'll come over and talk to you and say, maybe try this or try this rub or, this is what I do. Or, like he's had many times that someone who's bought in a new Humphrey smoker and just having problems maintaining the temperature or whatever, he'll just try to talk to them and say, okay, this is what I do, or, you could use this or stuff like that. So I think that in a sense is just being open and helping people is what we kind of show and do.
Right. No, totally agree because teams, are notoriously competitive, but they're also wonderfully cooperative. And that's why many of us come back to barbecue year after years for that reason.
Yep.
What would you say if you had to look back at the entire time that you've been doing competition barbecue? Is there a single turning point, a single incident where either it let you know that you were being successful or this was the high point emotionally, maybe not necessarily a big contest win, but maybe another type of accomplishment? Can you think back of that shining star moment for your team?
I mean, I could definitely tell where it started to change for us was when Bill, I think it was 2010, was when Bill took his first class. And it might have been 2009 into 2010, I actually think. Yeah. And he kind of went in there and came back to us and back home. And he was so motivated. They ended up buying a smoker. We bought a backwoods. The class he took was IQ's class, and he actually bought the backwoods from IQ. And he practiced and practiced and practiced over the winter. It was like crazy. We were eating barbecue every other day. He was just so motivated, and it showed that following year. We won the first 3 contests we did. He got GCs in the first 3 contests. I think that was a turning point. He was just so excited and motivated that I just think, and that was kind of where it took off for us. We did way more contests than we ever did before, and it was just an excitement. It was, we couldn't wait to go to the next contest and see how it turned out or what we did. So I think that was basically it.
Yeah. And then, and so when you had that turning point, how did you realize that you were really invested in the team? How are you invested in your team?
How am I invested in
Yeah,
it?
how are you invested?
It's a lot of time. You'd be surprised. It takes up a lot of time. I'm not saying, the amount of money we put into it, the amount of trailers that we've had, the different smokers that we've had. It's the money part is big, but it's also the time that we put into it too. Like between the practicing, traveling, being at contests, doing 30 to 35 contests a year, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. You know, it takes you away from your family. There's a lot of times that my parents would be like, "When are you coming home?" And you know, I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to see you for another like 3 months or whatever." And then also trying to sneak it in. Like there's a lot of times we come home from a contest, we'll swing by my parents' house just to say hello. I think time is the most investment that you make in this whole thing, I think, for us.
And you and Bill, this was like part of your courtship. I love that aspect of your relationship, and we'll continue to refer to it on this podcast. But so it was part of how your relationship developed. Did you think back then that you would take it to the level of investment that you have taken it to at this point? Like
No.
if you could get in a time machine and talk to Shaune from 2006, do you think she would recognize you?
No, not at all. I could tell you a story too about it. First of all, I don't ever you take me, I never went camping until that first contest that Bill took me to in Maine. I never, when I was younger, I didn't camp. I never slept outside, nothing. That first contest, I had to literally sleep in a tent. And that was I was very surprised I even got through that. So I wouldn't recognize myself at all. Like if back, 10, 15 years from now, or like back then. But the funniest thing that changed was that after he took the class or whatever, he wanted to buy a trailer, like an RV trailer, like a toy hauler and stuff. And I was like, okay, we'll go do that or whatever. And so we went to like a camping show and we were going to buy something. And I was like panicked because of the money. And I was like, I can't spend this kind of money. I'm like, why don't we buy a small enclosed little trailer? And he was like, all right, because he was just trying to calm me down because I was all panicky. I thought I was going to throw up because it was so much money. And he's like, okay, well, just go buy it. And I said, once you start winning, we'll think about changing to like the bigger one, but let's start small. So that was 2009. We went into the 2010 season and he won his first contest, the first contest right away at Rock City. And he turned to me and I was like, he goes, you do know I just won my first contest. And I was like, Christ, now I got to buy a freaking trailer. I'm like, we just bought this enclosed trailer. He was like, well, you said it as soon as I won my first contest, we can start looking at something else. And then he won the next one. And then he won the next one. And I was like, let's just get through this year. And then maybe we'll talk about getting a camper. And I was like, boy, did I step into that one. And that's how it's been ever since. Like, I always try to pull him back and say, maybe when we do this, we can get this. And he's like, all right. And then the next, like a week or two later, he does it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much in trouble here. It was almost like when we got, I don't know if, Kim, I think you know this story about the whole at the Jack when we got married.
Yes. But tell it's a great one.
So he, when we were planning our wedding, we had the Jack that October and it was the beginning of the winter. And I wanted a fall wedding. I couldn't explain to you how much I wanted a fall wedding. And I was like, I want to get married like in October. And he was like, well, what happens if we go to get into the Jack? And I'm like, we're not going to the Jack. I'm like, there's no way we're going to the Jack. But like, he wore me down and I was like, fine. I'm like, we'll get married in the spring of like 2012 or whatever. And then lo and behold, we got into the Jack and then we won the Jack. So I was like, boy, was I like... So apparently that needs to be my motivation for him to tell him no on something, and then he just goes and does it.
That's leading into my next question is, what is the incentive program for winning? When he wins a category, when your team wins a GC? I know that you all there's something that you all do after the contest.
The only way Bill can get sushi is if he gets a GC.
Oh, wow.
And then sometimes I'll give it to him. He gets a first place, but he can't get sushi unless he gets a GC. And then maybe if he gets a first place in the category.
I was gonna say, I didn't know if I knew it was a GC, but I couldn't remember if it was a category.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll give way and I'll say, okay, if you got a first place category and I just really want sushi, I'd be like, we can go have sushi. So yeah, I mean, most people probably have other exciting things, but I'm like, yeah, just sushi.
No, you gotta have something that, like I said, you gotta dangle that carrot every now and again.
Somehow, yeah, definitely.
So I wanted to talk about Cook's meeting. I see you at Cook's meeting, but a lot of times you see Luke at Cook's meeting more than I do because sometimes I'm not there. So what are some of your favorite things that you like to do during a Cook's meeting?
Kimberly, I know where this is leading.
Your Honor, she's leading the witness.
So I sometimes, depending on who's at the Cooks meeting, I might get a little handsy.
Wow, I need to start attending more Cooks meetings. That's all I have to say.
It's only been one person though, so not everyone get excited. No, I just seem to like irritate Luke a lot at Cooks meetings, and I quite enjoy it. And he says he doesn't, but I really think he enjoys it.
Yeah, I think he does.
He does.
Do not let him fool you.
He does. I know. Especially because he brings it up all the time. I'm like, oh. And then I try to threaten him too. Like when we go to a Cook's meeting, my finger likes to get a lot of work.
Wow. So that happened.
Leigh Anne, gotta come more often.
Well, I'm just back. I'm glad I'm back on the East Coast, so I can start to attend more Cooks meetings and get to know more about. So tell us more of these shenanigans. Your reputation precedes you. So when we say the phrase shenanigans, any particular stories comes to mind? I heard something about a rowing in a cardboard box.
Oh yes. Lake Placid. So yeah, it started that it's usually late at night and after you've had a few drinks that things just kind of happen, either whether or not you're taking things from other people's site or putting other things in people's site, or, it's just you're getting into trouble. We've tried to sneak into bouncy houses that have been closed down and got caught by the National Guard. So it's just stuff like that.
National Guard.
Yeah. Apparently we were trying to get we're at Rhode Island and we were trying to get into a bouncy house in the middle of the night. And as we were like trying to climb it, the National Guard, I think it was the reserves or whatever. I don't know. They came walking by and they were like, what are you doing? And we were just all kind of just standing there before we like tried to get in it. But we've gotten caught many times with that. But the bouncy house seems to be our favorite thing of trying to get into. And then Lake Placid, I have this tradition of, not if everybody knows, but Lake Placid, they do inside the Olympic outdoor ice skating oval. And when it does rain there, it floods. So there's almost like there's a layer of water that runs across it. So I have a tradition of trying to find something to look like I'm trying to row across it to go see my friends. So I'll try to get into a cardboard box or I'll try to get into a bucket and someone always gives me a paddle. And yeah, so it's a tradition, so I'm kind of upset when it doesn't rain sometimes.
I was gonna say every other year,
Wow.
usually.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to worry about. You just have to wait for the next year to come around.
So speaking of traditions, do you guys have any superstitions, traditions, things that you have to do at every comp, at certain comps? You always have to do this one particular, you talked about it, like Placid, when it rains, you always like to do that. But like from the cook perspective or from the competition perspective, do you have any of those type of superstitions or traditions?
We have a couple like little figurines. We have a gnome figurine that we have to rub its little head at every contest before we have when we first get there. Bill has a story about we have a little figurine ladybug too, is our other lucky thing. And that just happened recently because our last GC we won, there was ladybugs all over the window. So I kind of figured that was our lucky thing. So I have a little ladybug. So we have a couple figurines that we rub and stuff like that. We always have to listen to Hair Nation on Cook Day. So that's any hairband metal for Bill. He really likes that. And then we kind of flip between like 80s on Saturdays or Fridays and stuff like that. But during the competition, we do Hair Nation. So other than that, that's about it. Bill wears lucky underwear. I don't have any lucky stuff I wear.
That happened in undies, yes.
Yeah, I did have a lucky bra at one time that I used to always wear. It was leopard skin,
Ooh,
but I don't wear that anymore. Not that everybody knows I have a leopard skin bra, but that was a lucky thing I always wear, but I don't wear it anymore. So
is it unlucky now? Is that why?
I don't know. I don't have it anymore. I don't know. I don't know. It probably hasn't won in a while, so that's why I changed it. So I
know what to get you for your birthday.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of getting near the end here. So what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about you when you're on you personally, or you on the barbecue trail?
I think one of the biggest is probably that people might find me not always as friendly as I am. I sometimes might come across as, not wanting to talk to you or anything like that. I'm a very shy person at first. A lot of people don't believe that. But if you put me into a group of people I don't know, I won't say anything for a little while. I'll just kind of sit there and just listen to everybody else. And I think sometimes that comes across as being unsocial, but it's just me being shy. And then there's sometimes that people have catched me at a bad time. Like, I'm trying to keep Bill in line and on schedule to what he's doing. And there could be like 15 people in our site. So I'll kind of like shoo everybody out. So I come across kind of, not as friendly, but it's not that I'm not friendly. It's just that I'm trying to keep him in line and what he has to do for turn in. So I think that's like the biggest misconception. But I think once people get to know me, they realize that I'm not like that, but it's just, I want people to know it's my shyness. It's not that, I come across mean or I am mean or unfriendly, but it's just me being quiet until I get to know you.
Being a teammate, having to have that relationship of knowing when they need to focus and knowing what our role is and what we need to do and what needs to happen when you're hitting those turn-in times. So yep. I totally understand where you're coming from there.
And I have a funny story, just because she likes to bring it up all the time. But there's this one team, Fire Down Below, and Ginny. Yep. She was, when they were first starting to get into barbecue, they came to Merrimack, New Hampshire, just to kind of walk around and see what it was all about. And I think she says it. I think I remember the time, but I think was having like a meltdown because there had to be like 9 people in our site, like almost at turn-in time. And Bill, like, he'll talk to you or whatever like that, but he keeps going. But I feel like he's going to lose his concentration on what he has to do. So I whipped open the door and I was like, everybody needs to get out of here. Bill, get inside. And she caught me at that time. Until this day, she's like, when I first met you, you were so mean. She's like, you whipped open the door and screamed at everybody I wasn't going to barbecue. And now she's like one of my closest friends. So, in that sense, and people just catch you at the wrong time, so it's just, and I'm not like that. So I just want people to know that.
Well, you talk about getting caught at those moments, and I don't think until you really do it, you don't understand the amount of stress. And when you talk about the investment that you make in the time, you don't understand how stressful it is unless you're really a competitor or doing that. How do you recharge? How do you recharge between meets? How do you recharge when you're working a double and you've done one competition and then you got to jump right back into it? Are there things that you do, anything in particular to help you maintain your positive energy?
The one thing that I try to do is at contests is if I can get away from the competition. So there's a lot of times that we might, do all our prep and everything, and we finish our prep and him and I will just be like, let's just go out and get lunch somewhere. Like just leaving the site and getting away from everybody and everything and people asking questions and everything that's got to get done, just maybe for an hour or two really helps me. But I also find it too that it's great because you're traveling all over the country. And a lot of the times people go do that and they never see the sites or go anywhere. They just sit in their, their site or whatever at the competition and never leave. And it took me a long time to figure that out, that getting out and going, seeing things is like a benefit. It relaxes you, it gets you away, it calms you down. And I enjoy that. I enjoy when we get there on Friday nights, with Kim and Luke, when we just sit around and, the campfire and we don't do anything with competition. We just drink and hang out. Or we go out to dinner or stuff like that. It's not talking about competition. And I think that's kind of like what relaxes me and calms me down. Because you just can't, you talk about it so much during the week and you're doing so much. And even at the competition, you just sometimes have to do something else just to get away from it.
And it's like you said, part of the fun of going and doing these competitions is traveling and being able to see, you're going to this small little town, but there's some great treasures in that small town.
Yeah.
If you don't take the time to open your eyes and look around, you're really going to miss it. And those are some of your best memories that you have. So speaking of being able to go out and get out and look and travel at things, do you have contests that are your favorite? that you look forward to every year when you and Bill get to go out?
Lake Placid, like, is always our favorite. And that's just because him and I, we spend like hardly any time at our site on that one. We spend it more in time going like in town, going out to lunch or whatever, going swimming in the lake that's over there. It's almost like the contest is a second to your little mini vacation. That's how I look at it. And I like so enjoy that. And I don't mind it. Like a lot of times I go to contests and that's all I want to think about. And that's because that's why I'm there. But that contest is second. The contest part is second to like just going there and having fun.
Mhm.
I love Lakeland, Florida. That's always been one that we enjoy going to. And I think it's just because we don't ever get down to Florida. So we get to see those people down there that we hardly ever see. And there's just so much going on. Like they have a huge like party and like the festival that goes along with it. There's so much to see and stuff like that. So I enjoy that too. So
Want to talk trash on any competitions? Anything that you particularly like, won't go back to? This is your opportunity to burn a bridge.
No, I don't want to burn a bridge. But there are contests. Like last year, we were supposed to cut back a little bit, and I wanted to cut back on contests that, just we weren't having fun at. Like we needed like, and that's another thing to regroup on is that like, it's when you've competed so much and you do like 30 contests a year, and the next year you're like, I need to go and have fun. Like I need it to be fun. And you need to take away some of those contests that are a struggle to be at. Like there's a couple around here that, I have to bring the little trailer in. There's might not be any electricity. I have to bring a generator, the bathrooms are terrible. And it's just not worth it to me anymore. So, I'd like to cut them out. The problem is New England, there's not a lot of contests. So I have to do them unless I drive 10 hours away. So it's a struggle there. It's kind of like, do I go and be miserable or do I go so I can get the points that I need to compete and stuff like that? So it's kind of hard. So we kind of keep doing them, but, so we're slowly moving away to ones that, are not as fun.
Right. Right.
You guys have been doing it so long and you've been able to look back at when you first started doing it to now. And of course, the COVID era is a totally different animal. So try not to think about that. But when you think about the last year of real good competition barbecue, what's missing from it that was there maybe 10 years ago when you first started doing it? Is there anything drastic that has changed from your perspective?
I think for me, because when we came into this, it was, you didn't have all the trailers and, all the different kind of smokers and stuff. Like when I first started, it was a pop-up tent. Everybody had a pop-up tent. And the people who had a trailer were like, ooh, that person's got a trailer. But you had a pop-up tent. People did it on like old, like they had like homemade grills and smokers and stuff like that. Now it's just, the size of the trailers and like what rolls in, it's like crazy. You're looking at like 40-foot sites just to get in there. That's the only difference I really see, is because it was so different in that aspect when we first started to now. Now you don't see anybody without a trailer. I mean, if you do see someone with just an easy up, it's kind of, probably their first contest or a backyard person. You don't typically see that anymore. And you can definitely see the difference in money now. Like, I don't think anybody cooked Wagyu brisket back then. It was, simple brisket or whatever like that. So the money the money to do a contest is much more now than it was back then.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think people taking classes, if I had to say, you definitely, I know when we first got started, you didn't have too many people taking classes. Mm-hmm. And now you talk to people and it's multiple classes that everyone has been taking.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I know I could talk to you forever. I love talking to you, Shaune. We love you. We love Smokin Hoggz so much. So there's one last question that I just kind of wanted to ask, and it's a good kind of ending question. So if you had, and it could crash and burn when we talk about this because it's a tough question, but if you had a big billboard anywhere with anything on it, it could be metaphorically speaking, you wanted to get a message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say and why?
I don't know if I can answer that. That's like a thought, like provoking question.
it could be something personal to you. It could be about your barbecue team. It could be about Bill. It could be about, barbecue in general. It could be a few words. It could be a paragraph. It could be an emoji, quote.
I don't know. Can I get back to you? I'll text it to you.
No problem. Like I said, sometimes this question, it's thought provoking, and sometimes it's really difficult to answer. And I think if somebody threw that question at me, I don't know how I would answer too. But I just thought I'd throw it out there and see. So no, you can always get back. That's fine. No worries. No worries.
What are you looking forward to most with this upcoming season? You guys have done so much. What are your goals this year as you approach Competition Barbecue for 2021?
Hopefully that there's a contest I can go to.
Well, there is that.
For me, it's hopefully there's a contest I can go to and there's enough teams to compete in it. That is our struggle up here. I can probably guess New England will not have a contest this year. That is my guess.
Wow.
I could totally be wrong. Maybe by the end of, fall or whatever we might, but so we're going to have to do a lot of traveling this year. So for us, it's just 2021 is just hoping we can find the contest enough that we could compete. Last year Bill was able, we couldn't compete team of the year or anything like that. We did in ribs, but it was a struggle. Like him and I, we had to drive down at the end of in Virginia in October just to get the last two contests in for him to even have enough contests to compete. So it's a struggle. So I'm hoping, we can get enough in that we can get out there and actually compete and stuff like that. But that's what my goal is for 2021. I don't have a lot, maybe win a few contests. That would be great. But I don't have a lot until it's a full year where, I'm able to compete and there's enough contests and everything like that. Right now it's just hoping to get through the year. So
my goal is to sit next to you at a cook's meeting.
I don't know if you're going to like where I put my finger though.
Really only one way to find out, Shaune.
I was going to say, do you know Leigh Anne? Hello.
But you're welcome to sit next to me anytime, Leigh Anne.
Excellent. The only request I have is that I go before Luke, if that's okay. I don't want to be wearing that silver medal when it comes to finger exploration.
I'm sure he'll be fine with that because he runs away all the time.
He's a big one.
That's funny. That's true. He'll get really red and embarrassed. Yes. Oh gosh. Well, Shaune, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast, being the first one for our teammate. We appreciate it. We love you so much. So before we go, do you have any last words? Are there sponsors that you want to thank? Any last parting words?
Sure. Well, there's always our sponsors. So I'm probably going to I should have wrote them all down. But, there's Humphrey Smokers, there's Hammer Stall, there's, I need to have Bill by the door. There's Barbecue Guru, there's Royal Oak, there's Butchers, and then, get out there and buy our sauces and rubs. You can get them online from us. You can buy them from Old World Spice, your local store. So he's looking at me in the thing, making sure I got them all in. And then Bill's book comes out on May 4th. So don't forget to get the book. So I'm quite excited about it. At first I wasn't kind of hot and fast, but after seeing everything that he did and after the photo shoot, I'm kind of really excited about it. So it'll be good.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shaune. We really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully everyone finds it enjoyable. It's my first one, so.
Oh,
excellent. Well, the cherry's been popped for all three of us.
Finally.
Exactly. Yep. It's wide open right now.
I'm no longer a podcast virgin.
Nope. Well, again, thank you so much, and excited we get to see you in Raleigh real soon.
I can't wait.
Let's
hope for no snow.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for that one.
Yes. Yep.
Right. Thanks, Shaune. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it with all your friends. Also be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke YouTube channel as well. Next week we have Tim Shear with Shake and Bake Barbecue, Blues Hog, and Gateway Drums. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke Podcast is edited by Chris Sedenka. Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke Podcast is property of Old Virginia Smoke LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2021.
Old Virginia.